What is up, guys? This is Offensive T-shirt here, and I am here to talk to you about the Glock 45 Duty Plus build and my thoughts on the philosophy behind it. Essentially, how I look at this is there is such a thing as the strict duty gun, which is you take a Glock, you put an optic on it, you put a light on it, and you do not touch anything else about it. Your goal is essentially pure reliability. You don't want any aftermarket components that could possibly mess that up. And then there's the flip side of that, which is also referred to as a Gucci Glock or a range toy, whatever you want to call it, right? So what I'm talking about is somewhere in the middle, a middle ground that is something that you can still trust in a duty situation, but it has a little bit of personalization to it. It makes it more enjoyable to shoot. You actually want to take this gun to the range and practice with it and get better at it, so that way, if the time comes that you ever need to use it, you are more familiar with that specific gun, and you're able to take advantages of all the additional options you've put onto it, and not just stuck with the pure duty build, right? So one, this is obviously a Glock 45 Koa. The reason why I wanted to go with the Glock 45 for a full-size duty gun is over the Glock 17 is just essentially the length, right? I knew I was going to get a Radian Ramjet to put on here. Also, before we do anything else, the gun is cleared. Just wanted to make that apparent. But the Glock 17 is about a ½ inch longer than the Glock 45 as a stock configuration. Whereas when you put this Radian Ramjet on here, you are adding about a ½ inch to the full length of the gun, and it is making it essentially the exact same length as a stock Glock 17, but you have about 44% recoil reduction with that. Now, obviously, that comes with some concussion from the compensator, but as long as you're willing to trade that off, I believe it is a wonderful addition onto your gun, especially if you live in one of the states like I live in that doesn't allow threaded barrels. Now, me personally, I think this is the best one to throw on there regardless of threaded barrel or not, but that's a different topic altogether. So to get into it, let's go over the parts that I have on here, which is pretty much the entire point of the video, right? So I have on here the Glock, or the, sorry, Aimpoint Koa. The reason why I went with this optic is, in my personal opinion, it is the best optic on the market right now. Obviously, it is only on the market for Glock platforms, but soon it will make its way to the market for other things as well. Now, take cost savings out of it entirely. I still firmly believe that this optic is the best option there is, right? Reason being, the mounting system. I'm sure you've already heard about it 1,000 times already. You're taking pretty much all of the shear force off of those screws, so you're not, like, the first failure point in any optic is almost always going to be the actual screws. Like, for instance, here on my Glock 20, I have the Trijicon RCR, great optic, but because this is not direct mounted into the slide, and because there is so much more tension on these screws, I took it to the range a couple times, and then I went to the range this last time for probably like the third or fourth time that I've taken this gun to the range, and I noticed the optic is wobbly. Now I went ahead, took the whole optic off, took the plate off, made sure everything was torqued down, and now it is fixed. But with this, you don't have to worry about that. You can see the markings that I've put on here without having to take off your optic in order to see that. So if this were to start backing off, I would notice immediately, instead of, say, the screws on the optic plate started shearing off or started unthreading, I wouldn't be able to tell until the optic itself started wobbling off. And now I've got to take it all off anyway. Maybe I just got to the range and I'm about to shoot my gun that I've been excited to shoot, and now I can't effectively because my optic isn't seated on there properly. The other reasons I went with the Koa, obviously, it is flush with the sides of the gun, so you don't have any overhang at all with the Glock 45. Any of the full-size guns are going to have that. Essentially, the way that they constructed this, from what I've seen, there's not a whole lot of bad things that people have to say about it. I have seen a little bit of an issue with water intrusion, but that video that I saw that on, the dude's throwing the gun around, which realistically, yes, we expect these optics to hold up to something like that, but at the same time, are you going to throw your gun around in the middle of a field or into a riverbed? I hope you don't. If you choose to do that with your guns, that is totally up to you, but that cannot be me. The next item that I'm going over is in my opinion, my favorite upgrade to this gun, and I don't even know if you could tell that it's there. That is the PMM Parker Mountain Machine mag release, right? So for me, the stock Glock mag release is just a little too flush to the frame. I have just a little bit of trouble on these full-size frames, not the slightly larger frame of the Glock 20. It actually works for me on here. But on these full-size frames, my thumb just barely doesn't hit that. I get that that's probably not an issue for some of you. Maybe it is a worse issue for some more of you. But for me, this is perfect. It is not extremely ungodly. Like, it's not tacky like you see on a lot of range builds where it's like a big blue bolt sticking out of the side, essentially, that you can hit on anything and everything. And it's also made out of aluminum, so you don't have to worry nearly as much about durability as you do with the, I don't want to say stock Glock mag release, because obviously that's going to be reliable, but some other aftermarket components, right? That, for me, is the best addition that I think I could have made, and I am extremely happy with this. If I were to change everything on this gun but leave one thing the same, I would keep that dang magwell. I don't know why. It's a very slick, you barely even tell it's there, but when you're holding the gun and you use it, you can tell the difference, right? The next thing I'm going over is the SLR Rifle Works magwell. Now, again, this is a Glock Gen 5, so I get that it comes with a flared magwell, but for me, that's not really, magazine insertion isn't really the exact reason why I add these on here. For one, I feel it in the hand where it feels like I have a more positive control over the weapon. I feel it even just on the bottom of my pinky, it driving my hand up into the gun, and it feels more secure. It's also on the pad of my hand, of my palm, where I feel it on there as a slight resistance driving my hand further up into the gun. I can feel like I have a better purchase on the firearm itself. And along with that, I believe it just stiffens up the grip a bit. It makes the gun feel more firm in your hands. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of give here in the magwell. Now, that is such a nitpicky complaint that realistically, I find it hard to mention. But at the same time, I want to give you my honest opinions as to why I went with every part on this gun. So that way you can make an informed decision on whether or not you would like a magwell, a mag release, a light, a ramjet, what have you, right? The next component that I'm going over is the Mod Light PL350. This is something that is mostly dealer's choice, consumer's preference, right? The reason why I went with this over something like a Streamlight X300 Turbo or Ultra or just the normal X300 is for the main reason, the controls. Now, I know you don't have a momentary on with this, but for me, I feel like I wouldn't use that very much. And the problem with the Surefires, which I have tried to rectify with taking it apart and sanding down that little disc in there, which hasn't helped much. But the switches are extremely stiff. I actuate it with my index finger. It's almost impossible to get it to sit in the center and not overshoot that center mark and turn back on again. This one, it is not perfect. It is not 100%. But if I want to actuate it with my index finger, it's easy and I can actually do it. Now, if I keep doing that, I'm sure, yep, see there, I just overshot it again and I could get it back down into the off position. Also, the mod light systems, you can exchange these heads for any other head. There's the PLH V2 head, which gives you a bit more spill and less of a hotspot. This is a very hotspot oriented gun. I live in a smaller town and I'm out in the country a lot. So I want something that can shoot out to ranges and essentially identify threats or just do investigative research into something where I can go out to distance and I can still use the light in close quarters and see the effect of the spill from the light bouncing off of whatever it's hitting. But with this, I don't have that, or at least not as much. This is the Ultra. I know the Turbo is better about that. But again, with the switches, I just did not want to go with the X300 Turbo as well. Also, the minor help that you don't have to take the light off of the frame in order to change the batteries. You just unscrew the head and pop a new battery in it and you're good, man. It's really underrated what they do. I know Mod Lights had some problems with their social media department, and realistically, as long as it's not affecting the quality of the product, I don't really care. The last, I would say, reliability affecting item would be the goon tape. Now, obviously, that is entirely dealer preference. The reason why I went with goon tape instead of getting it stippled is because I'm not entirely sure I want it stippled, and once it's stippled, you can't go back, right? I'm okay with this right now. In the future, if I want to get it stippled, I can. But if, say, I go and get it stippled by a laser stippling company and I don't like the outcome, you're pretty much up a creek without a paddle. You know what I mean? I'm not opposed to stippling, and if you have a company that you like going to that you have used before, absolutely have it done. Throw me a recommendation in the comments, because I've seen about 5 different ones that something turns me off from them, and I just can't settle on it, and then I ended up settling on goon tape. And at the end of the day, if you want to mix up your colors or anything like that you've got on your gun, you know, you want to be a little bit of a baby about it like me, you can switch out that with any number of different colors, either goon tape branded or something from Amazon. It's all the same stuff. But as far as the non-reliability affecting options, that to me is your stock, or not stock, but that is your Glock duty type build, right? Anything else that I'm about to go over is something that if you are in the slightest bit concerned about reliability or extremely concerned about reliability, I'm not saying don't get what I'm about to say, but I am saying take your gun to the range and shoot it. I would say take it to the range and shoot 500 to 1,000 rounds through it with the new parts that you're about to add, and then make sure that they are keeping true to the Glock reliability before you actually use this as a carry gun. Use something else in the meantime while you're breaking this in, while you're taking it to the range and getting used to it and making sure that it's all working. Just use a different gun. If you're carrying this much about this specific build, I doubt it's your first gun. So I firmly believe that you can pick up any number of your other guns that you are for sure about, maybe another Glock, and take that to the range. So to get into it, the two components are the Radian Ramjet and the Johnny Glock's Combat, what is it? Combat Evolution X trigger with the Vex trigger shoe, right? You don't have to get the Vex trigger shoe. You don't have to get the Striker upgrade. I did not get the Striker upgrade. I did get the new trigger shoe. And the reason for that is simple. It looks cool, right? Everybody wants to look cool, and I am not immune to that want, desire, or need. To start it off with the Radian Ramjet, I have had zero reliability issues. I have been hard pressed to find people with consistent reliability issues with the Radian Ramjet. Realistically, as long as it's the same dang length and it has the same pretty close specs on the inside, it's gonna fit into a Glock and it's gonna work great, right? I love the thing. I love the way it looks on the gun, right? Because again, looking cool is important. And realistically, it's the same size as a Glock 17 now, but I have 44% recoil reduction, at least that if you are to believe Radian's website. And I have used this, and you can feel it. Like, I'm not a big compensator guy, but when you're shooting and you take a shot and then you're about to get ready for your next shot and you don't have to adjust your sights at all. You're already back on target, or at least in the general vicinity you just were in, because this thing barely moved. You start seeing that, and then the more you get used to that and being able to acquire your target faster, the better you're going to shoot and the faster you're going to shoot. And if you're somebody who flinches because you're worried about the recoil, stop doing that. But this will also help you because there's less recoil to be felt. I mean, realistically, it's a 9mm. If you're really that affected by recoil, go to the gym, go get some kind of hobby, talk to a therapist, whatever you need to do. Just stop doing that. But this will still help you, right? Now, I'm sure everybody has their reasons for why they do what they do, but that's my reason. I think it is a general positive on the gun, and if you're going to spend this much money on a gun build anyway, why not spend an extra $400 and get the Radian Ramjet? Don't get a Glock 17, get the Glock 45, make it the same length as a 17 with the Radian Ramjet, and have far less recoil. It makes perfect sense to me. I guess I'll leave that up to you on whether or not you think that. Now, the last upgrade, which is something that you 1000% do not need, is the Johnny Glock's trigger. That is nothing against Johnny Glock's or the person himself, Johnny. It is just, you are not going to beat the reliability of a stock Glock trigger. And no, I don't mean the performance trigger, because I went to the range with a buddy and he had plenty of issues with his, right? But the stock Glock trigger, you are going to have zero issues with, and if you somehow miraculously do, that ain't on you, man. You didn't mess up your trigger. You didn't screw up and put something unnecessary in your gun to give you 0.1% better groupings, I guess. The Johnny Glock's trigger is good. I'm not going to lie to you. It is extremely crisp. They call it a glass rod-like break. And it has a good reset. Now, it is $290 with the configuration that I have. It is $200 for the trigger housing and all the trigger components. It is an extra $90, I believe, for the Vex trigger shoe, which realistically, it's the coolest part about it, so why not? And it is another $80 on top of that if you want the Striker. So we're talking about over $300 just in the trigger. That's about as much as you're going to spend on that, and you're going to see a very small improvement. Now, at the same time you're seeing that small improvement, here's the bad news, right? I had 2 light primer strikes with this trigger, where I pulled the trigger, just totally dead, nothing happened, pulled the round out, and of course it has a light strike on that primer. And realistically, I'm now sitting here with I know I need to finish doing my 1,000 rounds. I'm at about the 500 round mark with this right now. But after I get past that 1,000 rounds, Now that I've had those 2 light primer strikes, am I in the wrong if I keep that on there? That's up to you to decide if you want that trade-off, because at the end of the day, there's people that carry guns that full stock, they have more problems than that. But at the same time, you're buying a Glock for reliability. If you want a range toy, I'm sure you can buy a Canic, or you can go full decked out Gucci Glock with Safari Precision and a big FU compensator and a Trujicon SRO for a bigger window size. And I don't know what type of light you'd want to put on there that's not that, but go for it. You could put a huge competition magwell on there. You can get it all stippled and tricked out and Cerakoted and golden barrel and all that crap. And you can even do that stupid crayon in the etching thing that some people do, which is to each their own. But the reason why you're buying a Glock is for reliability, 9 times out of 10, if not 9.5, right? And that has a very severe possibility of affecting that reliability. Now, that being said, this trigger, I have heard things about where there is essentially an indexing screw somewhere in here that I have not found yet because I have not looked, but it backs out, and it's what you can adjust your over travel and where your brake is for this trigger. So what I've seen online is you need to go back in there after about 500 to 1,000 rounds, and you need to reset that screw in place so that way it doesn't back out anymore. And after that break-in period, it shouldn't come out again. But again, I can't fully recommend that product to you with me not having that same conclusion. For me to fully recommend this and had those original problems, I would say that I would have needed to go back to the range and shoot another 2,000 rounds on top of that just to make absolutely sure that it is perfect in place. As far as the trigger goes, that other options, I do not recommend the Glock Performance trigger at all because after many rounds on my buddy's gun, where he has a Glock Performance trigger in it, he was having light primer strikes time and time and time again, where we had to then get that like degreaser spray and spray it down into his trigger to get it working again to where he could consistently shoot. Now I believe it's all working now, but that's something that is well after a break-in period. I had 2 light primer strikes total with this, and I am far, far away from having this totally and utterly broken in, at least as far as the trigger is concerned. But that's essentially it. I will try to link all these products down into the description if I can. I am very new to YouTube, and I am not entirely sure. Oh, wait, no, I can't do that, can I? Because it will get demonetized even though I have 0 subscribers. But that is fine. Essentially, this is a offensive t-shirt, and this is my Glock 45 Duty Plus build. I hope this helped at least a couple of you come up with some ideas for your build, or maybe dissuade you from some things, or persuade you into others, right? I hope you all have a wonderful day, and hopefully I'll see you in the future with a new build.